Jess Spear will be Calvin Priest, and then Emily MacArthur.
My name is Jess Spear. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'm here today to express my outrage that yet again, the mayor is putting forward a business-as-usual budget. Given the urgency that more than 3,000 people, almost 4,000 people, you can see from the signs, are living unsheltered, given that we are in year 11 of the 10-year plan to end homelessness, and given that rents are skyrocketing all across the city, forcing more people out on the streets, where are the serious and urgent proposals to deal with the housing crisis? If your answer is holla, I think that's good, doesn't go far enough in my opinion, okay? But implement them now and make them effective immediately. And for anybody that thinks that, this type of thing takes time, government takes time, I would reiterate that we have nearly 4,000 people that are living unsheltered and have no warm bed to go to. But I would also point to the $15 minimum wage process last year as an example of how quickly things can move. 1 month after the mayor's proposal was put to the city council, it was passed. 15 was passed, and we all know why. It's because councilmember Sawant, 15 Now, the unions, social justice organizations, built a movement in the streets that told you, if you don't act, we will. You have an opportunity to amend the budget. Are you going to pass amendments that deal with the crisis of housing and homelessness, or are you going to go along with this business-as-usual budget and throw a few crumbs our way? Many of you are up for re-election, so this will be another test for us that reveals whose interests you really serve. We don't want more rhetoric. We don't want to hear how, you feel for people, but you can't act. We want action now. Use your bonding capacity, build homes now. Expand relocation assistance. Make the developers pay their fair share. You have tremendous power to alleviate suffering. Use it.
Calvin.
I'm Calvin Priest with Socialist Alternative. So once again, as other speakers have noted, we're facing fundamentally the same budget this year as we did last year, a virtually identical business as usual budget. We see this in spite of the fact that we live in one of the richest cities in the richest country in human history. We see that it's not an accident that we're facing this same corporate budget that we have every other year. It has, I think, something to do with the fact that the corporate politicians in the conservative majority on this council are bankrolled by the rich, that they can't bring themselves to say, tax the rich, let alone act on it. What's needed is progressive taxation. That's the elephant in the room. But what's needed to make that happen is the backbone to push it through. Over this past 2 years, we've seen that when working people move into action, we can win real change. We saw that with a $15 minimum wage. We saw that last year with the People's Budget, where we won millions in additional funding for social services. And I think we can see that again this year. We've also noticed something interesting, which is that corporate politicians have sudden changes of heart in election year. Just a couple of weeks ago, we saw a conservative majority in the council that was deadly opposed to rent control, in a matter of hours, change its position and be fully behind lifting the state ban on rent control. I think if we, again, bring our forces into this room, if we mobilize the way we did for rent control, the way we did for the $15 minimum wage, maybe we'll see another change of heart. Maybe we'll finally see action on progressive taxation that the conservative majority in this council has voted down again and again, the corporate head tax, raising taxes on commercial parking fees. You have another chance to change your mind and do the right thing, the decent thing, to hold yourselves accountable to the basic needs of people in this city, and voters will have another chance to hold you accountable.
Following Emily MacArthur will be James Kahn, and then Sarah White, and Sarah White is number 10.
Hello, my name is Emily MacArthur. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'm here to ask you to find room in your budget for a pilot program for municipal broadband. I think that this is a very basic start to a problem that you all already know exists. I learned recently that you've had 7 committees about municipal broadband, and each and every one of them has come to the conclusion that we need municipal broadband, and so the inaction is absolutely inexcusable. I could ply you with anecdotes, all of which are quite sad, of a number of people who are homeless or jobless going to the libraries and using their allotted 90 minutes and getting shut off and cut off from abilities to access the ability to apply for a job. Everybody in this room knows that you can't apply for a job or any sort of housing without access to the internet. Furthermore, we live in a city that completely depends on this kind of progressiveness, this kind of innovation, and we need to show it in the way that we spend our money. We need to invest in public municipal broadband. It's something that much less progressive areas such as Chattanooga, Tennessee have been able to do. Why can we not do it here? I refuse to understand that that is not something that is possible. And further, to demonstrate how needed this is that communities of color, disabled communities, are the most affected by the inability to access these services. And by continuing to ignore this major issue in the room, we are acknowledging that those communities do not matter, that this business's usual budget does not exist for them. It continues to exist for the companies that are already making money off of it, like Comcast, like CenturyLink. Let's invest in a public service, a municipal broadband. Thank you.
James will be followed by Sarah White.
Hi, my name is James. I'm from Socialist Alternative, and this budget is far from what we need. The budget has $650,000 going to youth jobs programs, which are paramount for young people trying to fight and escape from poverty, especially youth of color in South Seattle. Every statistic and experience shows that these programs are crucially effective in reducing crime by addressing the underlying causes. The Human Services Coalition is here to beg you for more funding for vital services such as youth jobs. On the other hand, the Seattle Police Department gets $300 million. That is a 500-to-1 ratio when it comes to youth jobs. No need for them to beg, despite the ongoing ruling from the Justice Department of racial biasing, despite the fact that they do not disclose how they spend their money, despite the fact that more police does nothing to address the root cause of crime, systemic poverty, and despite that, as The Stranger reported today, Chief Kathleen O'Toole, whose salary, by the way, is 1/3 of the money allocated for youth jobs, used her authority to lessen the punishment of the officer who violently pepper sprayed Jesse Hagopian, a Seattle teacher and peaceful activist for racial equality. Every one of you, except for Councilmember Sawant, said that you had $200 million extra to build a new youth prison and $300 million a year for an opaque SPD budget, but only $650,000 for new youth jobs. Here's what we can do. Give the $60 million that the social services are asking for, take it from the SPD, give it to social services and youth jobs, and until the SPD opens their books and says why they need the money, make them come and beg for a change. Thank you.
Following Sarah White, Freeman Ryan, and the Seattle Food Committee.
Hi, my name is Sarah White. I'm a nurse practitioner and a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'm here to express my agreement with Councilmember Sawant's proposal that city workers need paid parental leave expanded to 12 weeks, and that we as a city should move towards expanding that right for workers in the private sector. I treat people with chronic disease all day long, and it's important that our city move towards preventative health measures, including paid parental leave. I'm sure it's not news to you that we trail the rest of the developed world in providing this benefit to all workers. Workers in Seattle should not have to choose between bonding with their newborn and paying their bills. Ample paid parental leave is a simple policy with far-reaching implications for the health of our community. There's lots of evidence studying parental leave. We see with infants and toddlers strengthened bonding. Mothers who have paid parental leave are more likely to breastfeed their children and not miss healthcare appointments. There's lower infant mortality rates, which is key. There are less behavioral problems and higher scores on cognitive testings when these infants become toddlers. And there's also lower high school dropout rates. So you can see these benefits reach far into the children's lives. There's also decreased postpartum depression for mothers, and it also helps low-wage workers, low-wage mothers and fathers disproportionately, as they're more likely to take paid leave as they have narrower margins in their budgets. I think the evidence is clear that those council members who do not support expanding paid parental leave to 12 weeks are forcing our city's workers to choose between the health of their family and paying their bills. And once you get into the data, you see that 4 weeks is not enough. We don't start to see benefits until 12 weeks, and it goes up from there. You have a responsibility to the people that you represent, to the infants in your district, to support Kshama's proposal for paid parental leave for 12 weeks.
And following Freeman Ryan, Seattle Food Committee.
Hello, my name is Freeman Ryan, and I'm also a member of Socialist Alternative. I'm here today to demand that the city invest in a more robust, progressive transportation program for the budget. The Move Seattle levy will help provide the necessary infrastructure to expand transit throughout the city, but we need to urgently expand bus service. Like many others in this city, I predominantly work during the evenings, and while I'm lucky enough to live in close proximity to my job, many of my coworkers are not. They need safe and reliable mass transit. Seattle is a rapidly growing city, and affordable access to mass transit for all is key to participation in our economic, cultural, and democratic processes. However, it's clear that Mayor Murray's business-as-usual budget lags behind the needs of working people and their safety concerns. We need safe and reliable mass transit available 24 hours a day. We also need to reduce the barrier of access to mass transit by making it free or significantly cheaper for those in our community who are disabled, live on pensions, as well as K-12 children and students of all ages. I am also deeply concerned, as I'm sure everyone in this room is, that we have increasing inequality in access to good jobs, affordable housing, and more. Mass transit is tied to these issues because it is a lifeline for those who cannot afford to live in the city but cannot find a job outside of it. Lastly, as a young person who will inherit the climate crisis, I demand you do what you can now to reduce our carbon emissions, and the biggest impact we can have locally is by reducing emissions from transportation.
Thank you.